And we are live. Good afternoon, mga ka-PDAX, and welcome to Crypto Convos with Open Journal. My name is Kyle, and if this is your first time watching, I'd like to first and foremost welcome you because you are in for a treat today. And as with all of our Crypto Convos, we invite Open Journal. We'll explain more who Open Journal is now, but we decided to partner with Open Journal so that we can bring you meaningful conversations and hope that you learn and take away something out of every webinar, no, mga PDAX. Shoutout naman dyan. Comment naman tayo dyan kung nanonood tayo and from where. No? I want to know where everyone is watching from. I hope everyone's safe currently. And I hope everyone is excited to be here. Shoutout, sige. Shoutout muna tayo. Hello, Ed Lee. Good afternoon po. Thank you for spending your Friday afternoon/evening with us. Hi, Alvin. Good afternoon. Hi, hi, Laurel. Hi, Abigail. Hi, Grace. Reynaldo. Thank you for coming and tuning in. Guys, kung makahingi lang ng request, no, if you could like and share and tag your friends, no, because I'm sure there's a lot to learn and unpack from today's webinar featuring our guests from Open Journal, no. There's if you just saw our Telegram, if you're coming from our Telegram community, I just want to welcome you. Thank you. For those who don't know, yes, we have a Telegram community. No, so you may have already saw a sneak peek of what the topic is for today, which is regarding Ethereum scalability and the road ahead. No, but I digress now. Before we begin, I'll just give some disclaimers as we usually do for our show. So let me just begin quickly. So the views and opinions that are expressed in this webinar are only that of the presenters and do not necessarily reflect the company's views. The statements being made are not to be treated as investment or financial advice. Please exercise caution when buying and selling cryptocurrencies as they are highly volatile. And finally, if this is your first time hearing about PDAX, sino po ba kami talaga? So PDAX is the BSP licensed digital asset exchange. If you don't know, PDAX stands for the Philippine Digital Asset Exchange, and PDAX. Minsan PDAX, minsan PDAX, either works for us po. So we allow Filipinos to buy and sell digital assets such as Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, XRP, BCH, USDT, USDC, Link, Uni, GRT, Engine, BAT, Comp, and many, many more coming soon. No? So you can get started at pdax.ph or download us on your mobile app. Download us as a mobile app on your Android devices, Apple devices, or Huawei devices. Tawag po kami Mr. Worldwide kasi we are universal across all devices. Yeah. So since I shared it here already, I have to stick by it. So ask questions later on at the end of our guest's presentation. Comment your thoughts and share this Facebook Live for a chance to win a PDAX shirt. Guys, limited edition lang yung shirt na to. We don't sell this as merch, but everyone from our community members seems to love it. They post it sa Facebook group namin. If you aren't part of that, also Facebook community namin. So why not, guys? Ask questions because I think you'll have meaningful questions you want to follow up with our guest, and also just share your thoughts rin with others because it's an exchange of insights rin nonetheless, no? So with that being said, we move on to the main host, no? Nandyan pa ba tayo lahat? Comment naman tayo dyan kung ready na tayo. So I will just now introduce briefly our guest. He is from Open Journal, which is a subscription-based community that teaches you how to trade and invest. And I'll just leave it here. He's the head of marketing. Welcoming Joseph. Welcoming back, right? Because we have this monthly. Welcoming back, Joseph. Welcome, Joseph.
Hey, Kyle. Good afternoon. Kamusta? What's up?
Good afternoon. Hope you are safe, like all of our viewers. But, really excited to have you on for this
Happy to
month.
be here.
So, it seems we have our community right now watching. We'll also have a follow up for those who are just waiting to join now. Pero
Sure.
I guess I know maybe you could talk a bit more about Open Journal, Joseph, and we can share more about that throughout the presentation.
Sure. So thank you, PDAX and Kyle, for this opportunity. To those of you attending for the first time, welcome. And just a bit more background about Open Journal. We are a private access subscription and community where we teach a trading system which is hinged upon what we do as professional fund managers. Along with me, of course, are co-founders Hav Medina, aka Taylor, and Matt Flores as well, part of the team, where we open our journal, our opinion to our community members in all access. And yeah, we trade together, we talk about the different markets, overview, watch lists, the whole package. And it's really important, especially in a volatile asset such as cryptocurrency, to have people you can work alongside and have your back and make sure that you cover each other's blind spots and biases.
Definitely. And we're really grateful to have you here as a honored and esteemed guest, no, to share your thoughts on the market and where we may go from here. So really excited to learn from you.
Sure. Let us go. I'll share my screen.
Yep. You can get started. Okay ba yun, mga ka-PDAX? Comment naman tayo dyan. Game.
Let's go. Yeah, mga ka-PDAX, mga ka-invest, ka-open journal fam dyan. Type kayo ng game if you guys are game and ready to begin. Thank you for celebrating your Friday here with us, with me. And, let's make this fun, value-adding, entertaining, interesting to everyone coming here today. So without further ado, let me share my screen quickly so we can begin. Thank you, Kyle, for that introduction, and really looking forward to this session today.
Good.
Awesome. All good, right?
Yep.
Perfect. So again, mga ka-PDAX, good afternoon. To those of you who have been following this regular monthly series, welcome again, and looking forward to spending time with you and adding some value, right? And to those of you who are attending for the first time, welcome on board. This is a monthly partnership and endeavor with PDAX to facilitate financial literacy, especially in all things crypto and blockchain, for the benefit of all Filipinos. And super happy to be here. So before we get on to the topic first, just a bit of context as to what's been happening lately. And I hope everyone is all good and fine. Wala pa naman na ma-margin call or nagsisquid game dyan given all of the volatility. Grabe, no? Grabe talaga yung mga shakeout, yung mga buhos sa crypto. But all things considered, where we are today and the past few days with that rally, it's great. Prices are looking better, and I hope everyone is better than they were like a week ago, given all of the unprecedented volatility and market movement. But before we talk more about charts and price and outlook, I'm sure that's something that everyone is always interested in. It's very important to keep abreast on top of fundamental developments, catalysts, certain changes in sentiment, and really orienting yourself more about particular projects and particular ecosystems. Because sure, price is king, technical analysis is definitely important, but things like fundamentals, knowing the story, doing deep dives on certain projects or protocols really allow one to have the conviction to hold a particular asset class amidst volatility. Pero syempre, traders naman tayo, at least majority of us, and as portfolio managers managing other people's money and doing this professionally, we look at this through the lens of portfolio management, which price is king, syempre, and we really follow that. But like I mentioned, in order to have conviction or to really be able to fully appreciate and understand the extent of these developments, especially since crypto and blockchain is a new financial asset class and it's relatively uncharted. There's a huge potential as we move forward. Very important to learn more deep about it. So for today, our main topic is going to be about Ethereum scalability solutions and the road ahead. And this is particularly quite important given all things ETH, right? To those of you who aren't familiar, a lot of the use cases for Ethereum, if not majority of them, either fall under DeFi or decentralized finance, things like being able to borrow money and lend money, use it as collateral. That's what we're seeing as well. We also have NFTs, right? Syempre, sa mga may NFTs dyan, you're fully aware that over the past quarter, we've really been seeing NFTs pop. And under NFTs, you have all sorts of different kinds of NFTs. You have play to earn, you have collectibles, you have all sorts of different kinds of NFTs. Parang lahat na ng mga artists, ng mga celebrity in one way or another are gonna start getting into it already. And it's just an interesting digitization of art. And if you were here during my last month's presentation, we talked a lot about NFTs. So springing from that, springing from all of the NFT hype, and even from my presentation 2 months ago, springing from EIP 1559, an Ethereum improvement proposal to be able to make gas fees less volatile. And to be very clear, it doesn't necessarily lower gas fees, but make it relatively more predictable, right? We're going to talk more about that and Ethereum scalability solutions and certain projects and protocols with regard to that. So let's take a look at where we've come from and saan po tayo papunta, right? Previously, I talked about EIP 1559, and later on, we're also fully going to transition, or at least the Ethereum blockchain, from proof of work to proof of stake. That's poised to happen around early 2022, Q1 2022, somewhere there, right? And it's just really been very interesting to see where we've come from and where we're going. And if a lot of you sometimes get confused with ano yung mga EIP na yan, ang dami-daming mga EIP, these are generally just the blockchain's way of improving itself. These are proposals, these are quite experimentary in nature, which really try to smoothen and improve the way the blockchain functions in terms of providing value to all of the nodes across the network and making things relatively cheaper, faster, and better. And the way we can also look at this is it's just like any kind of business or any kind of community or group. There should be some sort of continuous improvement to be able to make things better, because just like any kind of technology, whether it be like cell phones or televisions or gaming consoles, when they started out, it's not perfect right away. You're going to have birth pains and challenges with regard to rolling it out, a lot of uncertainty, and people working around the clock to improve things. And that's the beauty of cryptocurrency and blockchain. In as much as it's decentralized, it's largely built around a community where developers, people using it, are able to give feedback directly to the CEO, the C-level team, for them to be able to take that into account and improve upon their products, services, and general way of doing business. So we talked about EIP 1559 last time, and we're paving the way for the eventual merge, which is something really big for Ethereum as we transition to proof of stake. And it's really something that we're looking forward to moving forward. And likely during that time, we're going to have another session more about that, because I'm sure a lot of you have some questions about it and are really more curious to do a deep dive on the implications of that. So we also have to understand that over the past few months and years, a bit longer term time frame, the Ethereum ecosystem has been seeing a lot of transactions ever since 2017, or even up until this past year, last year. There's been a lot of traffic in terms of transactions, and by virtue of that, growing number of users or people using the blockchain either by trading, either by bidding or selling NFTs, or their play to earn coins or tokens. A lot of people, majority of people, have started entering even more, and that's also been reflecting itself in the price, which we've seen over the past few years, all things considered, right? And along with transactions going higher, the number of active addresses or people who are transacting using a private address is also going up. We just saw a short-term correction over the past quarter, given all of the volatility we saw. I'm sure those of you who have been in the space, medyo nakakasawa na yung volatility. It's like, oh my gosh, when are we gonna go 5K and above? When is Bitcoin gonna go to 100,000? All of these things. But syempre, as traders, we're aware that things don't move in a linear fashion all the time. You have impulse or magnitude, and you also have periods of correction and consolidation when people profit take. And syempre, these things also affect the on-chain analytics we're seeing now, where in periods where prices take a drop lower, there's a chance that people are going to be less active, or they'll just be holding their coins. They wouldn't be as active participating in transactions and all of that. So it's not just in terms of number of active addresses, but it's a pleasure to see new addresses as well. Ever since before, you have like a long-term uptrend, and it shares a similar characteristic to our active addresses, especially in times where mababa si price. I'm sure that those of you in the space, pag mataas yung presyo ng crypto, yung mga parents ninyo, mga friends, mga tito, tita, mga ka-high school, people messaging you asking, hey, Mr. Mrs. So-and-so, paano mag-crypto? I'm interested to get in. So during these times where you have a sentiment shift from negative to positive through certain kinds of euphoria or emotion, people are always asking how you get into it. And by virtue of that, they create a wallet, and by virtue have a new address for them to house, store, move in and out their Ethereum. So along with transactions going higher and more people using their existing addresses or new people coming into the space to make a new one, unfortunately, you also have transaction fees going higher as well. Definitely, the transaction fees 2 years ago is quite higher than today. And again, similar to any business offering a product or service, the more daily active users you have, the more participation you have in your network, syempre, the transaction fees is going to go up. And you might be asking why. Why do the gas fees go up? What's the relationship between the price of your gas and demand, right? Well, there are certain limitations for now in terms of how many transactions per second Ethereum can process. And by virtue of that, people sometimes tend to pay a higher gas fee or bid a higher gas fee for their transaction to be accommodated in the block. Because that's how transactions work. Whether you're making a bid or trying to place a sell order or you're buying an NFT or you're doing a certain command on a NFT marketplace like OpenSea or Rarible may auction dyan, all of these actions, when you're interacting with the network, whether it be you going in or going out, a withdrawal, deposit, these kinds of transactions of all of these things related to a smart contract or all things Ethereum are going to contribute to the traffic. So, parang EDSA lang yan, guys. Pag rush hour, pag pasokan, or pag uwian, everyone's going to be there. And there's a way for you to skip that queue if you want your transaction to be accommodated first on the most recent block of the blockchain, which becomes like a page of this never-ending digital and open source ledger. People then have to pay a higher gas fee. They're more willing to pay a premium because they want their transaction to be accommodated faster. That's why you have spikes. You have spikes in gas fee, you have a spike in transaction cost, and all things considered, it's very challenging for the economy. That's why during my talk around 2 months ago, where we talked about EIP 1559, it was a way for them to smoothen out the gas fees by being able to, badly put, shrink or expand the block and not make these spikes in gas fees so much, or in instances where they do, it's less frequent. So people can somehow ascertain an average sort of price and no longer have to overtip the validator or whoever is in charge of that to be able to accommodate their particular transaction. So generally speaking, it's gotten better marginally with EIP 1559, but since it's a proposal, we're yet to see. It's just been a few weeks since that's been rolled out, and future time and data will allow us to see whether or not it's been working. But it's still been a problem for Ethereum and cryptocurrency in general. So if you take a look at this slide talking about the opportunity to improve cryptocurrency throughput, which is basically your TPS or transactions per second, we have a long way to go. There's a lot of potential for improvement. And maybe if you take a look at this without understanding more what cryptocurrency is, you might be like, hey, then what's the point of Ethereum? What's the point of Bitcoin if it's so slow? Pero yung existing company like Visa, for example, is able to have so many transactions per second. Isn't that more efficient? But that's a whole nother discussion on decentralization and why all of these replacement of financial primitives by virtue of Ethereum allowing that by writing smart contracts and creating DApps or DApps or decentralized apps on top of the Ethereum blockchain is important. But we have to understand, and we're going to zero in on Ethereum here, why it's slow or why, let's say, Visa's super fast. So you have to take into account that Visa is only processing Visa's transactions within their own like view, right, of the world. It's not like they're processing MasterCard transactions or other kinds of non-Visa transactions. But the burden placed on Ethereum, given that there are so many decentralized applications piggybacking off its ecosystem, it has the burden to facilitate all of those transactions. So the huge demand to be able to do stuff or facilitate in transactions on the blockchain by virtue is reflected on the inability of them to process everything all at once, roughly around 13, 15, 20 per second. And syempre naman, it's not the most efficient. You have other projects who can do it faster, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's automatically a better project. And that's where there's a lot of subjectivity and gray areas regarding these things. Kasi you're gonna have a pundit or champion for all of these things listed here who are gonna argue that my cryptocurrency, my protocol, my project is the best. And, you know, the better way to look at it is how do we make money from this? Because a lot of these proposals and projects and cryptos all have potential given the total addressable market of the entire cryptocurrency space. We're around 1-2 trillion, and you have a lot of experts and pundits from Real Vision and around the space really looking at how it can go 50 to 100 times larger. And I'm not here to hype you about that. That's all yet to be seen. And the time and scale in which that will be seen is OGK, only God would know. But in terms of the potential for a lot of projects, it's there. But as traders who really want to ride and participate in the fastest horses, we want to do due diligence and deep dive on what are the projects that have the most potential. Kasi pag nasa white paper lang yan, if it's just something that's been launched, it's so easy to be an air castle na, hey, sobrang solid tignan, so beautiful, but so much room for potential, pero yung laman niya or their ability to execute is different. That's why it's very important as well to really understand what you're investing in. So there's definitely a huge room for crypto in general, and specifically we're talking about Ethereum here, to improve their throughput. And this then leads to what they've coined as a blockchain's trilemma. Hindi lang dilemma, no? A dilemma's hard enough. Pero pag trilemma, may isa pang variable na umeepal, right? So the blockchain trilemma is essentially how do you balance all of these different sides of the blockchain triangle. You have security, which is basic and essential. You wouldn't want a project, a blockchain, or a dApp that could easily be hacked, right? Yung tipong you're gonna have some Mount Gox or insert random altcoin that went bye-bye. Either the project just exploded, the blockchain broke, or things were stolen. Security, it's self-explanatory as to why that's important, especially since we're dealing with open source information where anyone with a node or a computer can sync up to the blockchain and get access to all of that the same way you can to them, very open source. So it's quite self-explanatory why security is something important. In terms of decentralization, it's something important because that's the whole spirit of cryptocurrency and blockchain. You want to remove the middleman. You want to remove the intermediary. You want to make things more efficient, faster, cheaper, quicker. And you want to bring power back to the man, power back to the individuals who throughout history have been front run by institutions and whales and smart money and Wall Street, the whole Wall Street versus Main Street kind of narrative. And people just want their power back, right? They're sick and tired of so many middlemen and intermediaries contributing to this red tape of a bureaucratic process, which just complicates things. To an extent, there's an importance for central authority, but when we take a look at financial systems or ways of doing business, such as if you're an artist and you're trying to get or sell your content by virtue of an NFT, you no longer need a record label. You no longer need a manager, right? You no longer become hinged or compliant or dependent on these traditional intermediaries or institutions. So that's why when you're doing something with cryptocurrency and blockchain, it's always so important to have that nature of crypto, that it's still decentralized. Because if it becomes something like dinos, and this isn't a coin, this is a classification that the SEC, US government would call DINOS, decentralized in name only. That's why they're giving XRP so much flack, because to an arguable extent, XRP is kind of acting like a security, and all things considered, it's quite centralized by Ripple Labs, which is why mainit yung mata ng legal world ng SEC for Ripple. So anytime you have a project, you're trying to balance all of these things. Now, the last corner, and in my opinion, the most important, is scalability. Scalability. And scalability is particularly more important when you start expanding already, when you start becoming bigger, because that's when there's more pressure placed on the blockchain or on the system. Think of it like a mom and pop store or a startup consisting of less than 10 employees versus that of an SME versus that of a Fortune 500 company, right? It's so easy to say na, as a startup, sobrang dali to reach our customers. Our value chain or the supply chain in which we deliver our products and services, kaya namin to give value and keep up the quality of all of these things. But as they get more customers, more employees, more orders, and that organization becomes bigger and bigger and bigger by virtue of demand, by virtue of participation, it becomes easier said than done to do things at the level in which they were able to do when they were smaller, kasi mas mahirap na. You have more moving parts, more variables, more people, more transactions, which complicate and give risk for bad things happening. Delayed orders, irate customers, mistakes in the process, all of that. And taking into account as well that a lot of these things are done using digital technology, accessing the internet, setting up a GPU if you want to be like a miner or participate in the validation process. There's so much room for error when you start scaling. But that's something also important, because if you have a project or a blockchain wherein it's just 10, 15 people using it, then there's not much value, right? It could be decentralized all you want, or it could be a public blockchain all you want. But if no one cares about it, there's no network effect for people to participate, then you don't have an economy. You don't have a sound or world-changing business model which would improve the way of life. It, to an extent, becomes like a private blockchain because no one really cares about it or is willing to participate in it. So now you're seeing all of these levers of running a blockchain or growing a particular project and pushing the frontier of that. Sobrang hassle. And sometimes when one of these things mature or move, it becomes harder to make the other two catch up. So for example, pag your scalability is working out, network effect, growing your user base, you also have to make that secure and also make sure that it's still decentralized and it won't reach a point where you have, let's say, majority being able to hold or make decisions for the nodes and be able to steal everyone's money or somehow boycott the transactions happening when they collude in majority. So I spent quite a lot of time characterizing this, but it's very important to understand how complicated it is and why there's so much pressure, or it's easier said than done for Ethereum to just lower their gas fees because you have huge amounts of demand and you also have to have a way to scale this. Now, let's take an overview of Ethereum scaling solutions. And before we talk about scaling solutions, let's talk about layer 1 and layer 2 protocols, or in this infographic, level 1, level 2, but I'll be talking about layer 1, layer 2. Pretty much layer 1 are your mainnet, your mother blockchain. So you have Bitcoin, Ethereum, and yun yung base, yun yung underlying main blockchain architecture. But since the advent of layer 2 projects and endeavors, right, you have decentralized applications and new protocols building on top of that layer 1. A lot of DeFi and NFT related dApps, such as Aave for borrowing and lending, are to an extent built upon Ethereum and built upon that level 1 as a layer 2 sort of protocol. And the importance of layer 2, or to characterize why layer 2 has to be layer 2, why can't it just be like a separate thing, is because when you process complicated transactions, you're doing a lot of smart contract logic, if and then a lot of nested functions and statements on a layer 2 or separate from, let's say, Ethereum, and you're piggybacking on Ethereum, there has to be a way to connect the two. If you do high-level computation and processing for your layer 2 decentralized application, but it's still connected to Ethereum, you need a way to validate that on the layer 1 since you're still connected to it, right? It's not like a side chain which is completely dependent from the layer 1. So there needs to be a way to validate that the consensus mechanism or the computation happened at the layer 2 or the higher level, and for layer 1 to somehow acknowledge proof or validate that that happened, so you could have a smooth flowing transaction between the two, and more importantly, between the different nodes or computers or people participating in that decentralized app, which is still connected to like the mother blockchain for Ethereum. So yeah, it's really important that there's a way to connect the two. And that's where the concept of Ethereum scaling solutions come in, because you can scale or grow a blockchain on a layer 1 level or on a layer 2 level. And yes, both can happen simultaneously, the same way that Bitcoin, for example, has their Lightning Network in-house sort of improvement process for their own blockchain. Now, layer 2 can also be on-chain or off-chain, but I won't get too much on the jargon or on the specifics. But to those of you who've been watching Real Vision videos or have been watching Coin Bureau, Sigay, a lot of these things are touched upon. Things like your rollups or your ZK or zero knowledge rollups, Validium, optimistic rollups. All of these things are Ethereum scaling solutions to be able to make the things I mentioned on that trilemma marginally better and less volatile, less hassle, less risky. Now, zeroing in on Ethereum off-chain scaling solutions, you have quite a lot. And you can see here that there are certain projects in and of themselves, such as Polygon or Matic, and all the other things you can see there that are trying a certain kind of methodology for their scaling solution. And for all intents and purposes for this discussion today, we're going to zero in a bit more on Polygon, or previously known as the Matic network. And you can also see here as well the transactions per second of these different protocols and how, to an extent, they make things faster and more efficient, and arguably are able to alleviate pressure and traffic from the Ethereum blockchain, assuming that they're directly connected to that, since this is particularly an off-chain kind of scaling solution. So if we're gonna drill a bit deeper on Polygon or Matic, previously known as the Matic network, this is an Indian-founded proposal or Indian-founded project, and they aspire to be Ethereum's Internet of Blockchains. And if there's going to be one phrase that you're going to take away from this presentation about Matic, is that they're essentially a multi-chain Ethereum ecosystem. Multi-chain Ethereum ecosystem. And in the video by their co-founder Sandeep with Ash Bennington on Real Vision, he was characterizing how it's really built by developers for developers. Because sometimes you have businessmen who are the ones building the blockchain, all that kind of stuff. Nothing wrong with that. But at least what he was characterizing was you have people speaking the same language, experiencing the same pain points, and creating those particular infrastructure for people who are going to also use it. And essentially it's multi-chain because they take on different approaches, and we're going to talk about that later. Because when they were still Matic network, prior to the pivot and rebrand to be what's known as Polygon, they were pretty much focused on plasma network solutions, and they didn't really expand into the Polygon-esque multi-chain approach, taking on different kinds of pain points. So for example, right, let's take a look at Aave, which is part of DeFi, and what they primarily focus on is borrowing and lending, and primarily that is you can say a payment solution. So that's one thing. Because before, that's where a lot of these Ethereum scaling solutions began or started out as. A lot of the more OG ones were focused on payment solutions. But if you think about it, there's so much more than that. It's not just about payment solutions, though that's what around in 2018, 2019, a lot of the Plasma network built upon protocols and certain solutions were hinged upon, were really focused on just that. But now you have all sorts of other approaches and avenues to scale that. So moving forward, the opportunity they saw for improvement was really what I was characterizing earlier. Slow transactions, expensive gas, it being really challenging for the particular system. And these are also things which similar protocols like Polkadot or Dot or Cosmos or Atom are also dabbling into, but we won't get too much into that. And that's what the founders of Polygon really saw as a challenge or an improvement area, which motivated them to want to piggyback off. They saw the huge potential of Ethereum as a leader. And instead of putting up something which is kind of like a side chain or something that is independent of Ethereum, they really wanted to build something complementary to Ethereum, right? In the sense that they help it with all of its scalability challenges and endeavors. So their proposed solution to that was what we now know as Polygon. And you can see in the picture on the right, think of it like a constellation where all of the stars kind of link back to a central star, that being Ethereum. So whether it be through optimistic rollups or ZK rollups or standalone chains, these are different solutions or methods to improve upon the scalability. They're going to be dabbling and tackling all of those fronts. Kumbaga, they widened their battlefield. It became more general and less specific because you're going to have other kinds of protocols which are going to zero in and focus on one pain point. And that's, I guess, where there's a lot of criticism too about, are they spreading themselves too thinly? Is it going to work? Are they trying to be a jack of all trades, master of none sort of approach? Kumbaga, it's a very bold and idealistic and valiant effort and blanket strategy. But, we're yet to see how these things all fit together, since pretty much Matic or Polygon only became more popular just in the past 6 months, given, of course, price action and them getting more coverage. So just to share a bit more about what they've been doing. So like I mentioned, they're an Indian-founded and Indian-run startup, right, with their blockchain. And the use cases for the Indian society have already been carried out. They're starting to experiment in that. Things such as licenses and diploma certification and processing, to community reporting in rural areas where you have certain strong men or people in that particular microcosm of society who are feared of, and the local government is not willing to take action against these strong men. Alam mo yun, parang sa Pilipinas lang, right? You're gonna have certain people na nasa bulsa yung mga police. So there are certain efforts they've been doing and experimenting on to create a blockchain and Polygon linked way to be able to run reporting, so that there's no way to deny that a crime or a complaint was reported. Because in these kinds of endeavors, pag walang blockchain, it's so easy for them to bury evidence and just say, wala kaming natanggap, and wash their hands clean of what they've been told to. Kumbaga, it goes in one ear, out the other ear. So these are just some examples of what they've been doing in the Indian society and improving life, whether it be through the smallest of actions, such as the ones I've mentioned. And it's also important to note that if you guys remember the $1 billion relief COVID fund which Vitalik gave to India, that's something that Sandeep, the co-founder of Polygon, is in charge of, that kind of fund, being able to manage that, since, if I'm not mistaken, Vitalik gave that in SHIB, which was why at that point in time when he gave it a while back, there was a sharp decline downward in prices. And I bring this up because it's interesting given the volatility and upward movement we've seen in SHIB the past 3 days. I mean, yes, it's a meme coin. A lot of people say things about it. But yeah, just linking this back to the Indian COVID fund and relief, it's just interesting to see how much that fund has appreciated in value since Sandeep and his team, when they were rolling out the disbursement of the fund through local governments and national government, they were doing it in tranches. So of course that 1 billion worth of SHIB wasn't like exhaustively spent right away. So it's just interesting to tie back how much that has appreciated given the volatility in the market. So moving back, right, some of the features of Matic or Polygon include the things you see here, which are all super important. The most important being that it's ETH compatible, so that it ties back to the Ethereum blockchain. And at the same time, it's something that has interoperability, it's scalable, secure, etc. And if you want to be more critical about it, of course, any website of any project is going to say these particular things, which is why it's also important to sense check and validate over time whether or not these things are going to be rolled out successfully. Similar to EIP or any kind of Ethereum improvement proposal, hindi naman boom, overnight, implemented lahat, no problem, no birth pains, no growth pains. Syempre, these things are to be determined and improved moving forward, just like any kind of business model would consider. Now, just a bit more, zeroing in a bit on the Polygon ecosystem, more than 500 dApps already, including what I was talking about earlier, like Aave, for example, like Mana, Decentraland. To an extent, they piggyback and are already using in one way or another the Polygon ecosystem. So that's dApps. By virtue of that, you have DeFi, NFTs, DAOs. You even have infrastructure like wallets and oracles, which somehow function like an API to be able to translate blockchain data and connect that to real world data and vice versa. Some kind of, badly put and oversimplifying, a translation mechanism to be able to compute or connect or translate real world data, and it being something that the blockchain can process and translate, since we live in a real world and we're going to be transacting through the tool, through the mechanism of blockchain. Now, before we talk about some cool charts, just a bit of updates on Polygon that happened past few days. Quite interesting. The first being what you can see on the upper left, that Polygon flipped Ethereum in terms of active user addresses, given the parabolic participation in their blockchain. And that's quite interesting and quite attributable to what I showed you on the previous slide. All of the dApps, whether it be DeFi or NFT, given the demand and usage of that. And that's just something interesting to see, and how their intention and spirit is quite symbiotic or mutually beneficial with Ethereum. Is interesting to see that happen. And the second being, there's a change to their fees. Polygon, previously known as Matic Network, increased their gas fees a bit to be able to deal with spam transactions. Sandeep, their co-founder, was talking about that when he posted in their group about there going to be a small change moving forward to deal with a lot of certain spam transactions that's been happening on the Polygon as a blockchain and their native token, Matic, which was the name before when it was Matic Network prior to the business pivot and rebrand. So here are just some interesting updates. And of course, as much as this is an interesting proposal, as traders, we have to syempre follow price. Sentiment and fundamentals is very important. It gives the conviction. But at the end of the day, like we always mention, it's price action that determines kung kikita ka, kung tatalo ka. But if you're more of a long-term value investor, then you might differ. But at least in the realm of traders, we look at price and follow price above anything and everyone else. Now let's take a look at our watch list for the week. Of course, we'll take a look at the Matic chart and other charts we're also seeing, which we've of course shared ahead of time to our open journal community. Taking a look at Matic, it's just a large consolidation sideways pattern. Hopefully we're poised to break out soon and have maybe a rally towards your previous highs before going on to all-time highs. But at least price is currently above your EMAs, which are still somewhat medyo spaghetti movement pa. What we'd like to see is an EMA expansion where price is above your shorter term EMAs, which are above your medium to long term EMAs, as well as ADX start picking up and volume as well. So that's it for Matic. For Bitcoin and Ethereum chart is similar as well. You have a short term breakout and prices are looking good. grabe lang yung sell-off the past few weeks, and yeah, we're looking good. Hopefully, we're gonna continue this rally to retest previous all-time highs and hopefully break through past that and reach new all-time highs before forming a new base again. So this is something that I think a lot of you are happy about given all of the volatility we've been seeing. For Ethereum, similar chart to Bitcoin, short-term breakout, looking good, price above your EMAs. And just a tip to those starting out, you can always identify relative strength or ano yung mga malalakas na crypto. Kasi Joseph, ang dami-daming crypto dyan. There are so many pairs. And it's just important to focus on the fastest horses, those above their EMAs. The ones na your 10-day EMAs above your 20-day, 20 days above the 50-day, that's showing you a uptrend. And that is the path of least resistance. Kasi it's so tempting to say, ay, mahal na yan, I'll just buy something na 50, 70% down. There's a reason why Ethereum and all of these faster horses are being priced the way they are. The same way there's a reason why those other projects down 50, 70% are being discounted. As traders, what we trade, the markets we're trading, the coins we're choosing, is more important than how we trade, how we operationalize our system and enter. Another one is RWeave or ARUSDT, showing some relative strength, and hopefully we'll be able to break out from that past previous resistance and reach new all-time highs. So clearly a leader. Take a look at those moving averages. The green is the 20-day, red is the 50-day, purple is the 100-day. So those are the kinds of uptrends I like following. And a way you can participate in these is buying the pullback. When it pulls back to your 5-day, 10-day, 20-day, that could be a buying opportunity, assuming it pauses and holds there. Next is Phantom. So such a nice chart. You had a breakout from that brief consolidation pattern, and now we're poised for a move higher. For these kinds of high flyers na parabolic na, you can use a short-term moving average, like a 5-day or a 10-day. And you can use maybe an intraday time frame, like 30 minutes, 1 hour, to be able to get intraday pullbacks and weakness to areas in which it's pausing or consolidating so you can get a position. Lastly is Harmony or OneUSDT. And yeah, similar to the previous patterns I've showed, showing you relative strength and hopefully is poised to break out from previous highs and previous resistance. Just a lot of things we can watch. And guys, kung may mga coins na you're participating in, pa-comment dyan naman sa comment section so everyone can expand their watch list. Ang dami-daming coins and opportunities here, and yeah, I'm sure everyone has their own watch list. We can share together and continue improving and making money. So with that, before we get on to quick Q&A, a bit over time, just some brief announcements. We have an Open Journal YouTube page if you want to watch the recording of this. If you missed some parts or want to watch the previous crypto conversations, they're all uploaded there. And guys, sa mga may IG dyan, which is majority of you, guys, pa-follow naman. Open Journal PH now on Instagram, and a bit late to the party, but we're here. So please, pa-follow naman, guys, pa-support. And we post all relevant updates of our community here, and feel free to check it out kasi may mga pa-premyo which are also announced here, mga contests natin. Last but not the least, we invite you to join our Open Journal family. To those of you who want to take your trading, your understanding of crypto and blockchain and how to execute a price-based system from that, we invite you to join OJ, and we open our doors to you. If you have any questions about it, you can check our landing page on Investograms, or you can send me a message. We'll reply right away. So with that, guys, maraming salamat for your time. I know medyo a bit technical, mouthful, a lot of stuff, but I hope you learned more about the space. And if you have any questions about price action or anything under the sun that I can answer to the best of my ability, let me know. Maraming salamat. So we can have a quick Q&A just to respect everyone's time. I know it's a Friday and marami ko din kayong kailangan gawin. So thank you, PDAX. Thank you to everyone watching today.
Thank you, everyone. Hi, Joseph, first and foremost, thank you so much for that very well informed, very detailed presentation. Definitely learned a lot. So, everyone, guys, if you have any questions, we can siguro answer one or two, or we can give away the shirt to the person answering, asking a question as well. So, sige na, guys. PDAX T-shirt up for grabs for those who want to ask a question to Joseph.
Yup. Wag mahiya, guys.
Feature ko lang yung Instagram ni Open Journal,
Sure.
Instagram.com/OpenJournalPH. Yan, na-feature na ni CoinFem right now.
Cool. Thank you. But yeah, guys, if nahihiya kayo or you can't think of a question right now, feel free to message me on the channels I provided. So at Joseph on Twitter or Instagram if you have any clarifications or questions about that. No worries.
Sige, mukhang nahihiya talaga sila, Jo. Ayun. Sige. If you want to answer. Yep.
From Ira, what do you think about Algorand? As far as I know, what is like Ethereum and Solana, is there a future for Algorand? I think that if you just take a look at the chart, it's showing some strength. And I think that regardless of talking about fundamentals, because I mean, I have no idea the future for these particular companies, but in terms of potential, that's something that by virtue of price action is pricing in. So I would keep that on my watch list. Because guys, there are a lot of coins and tokens, and sometimes it gets very overwhelming to keep tabs on every single project. And at least from our experience and our competency, which is following price is a leading indicator kasi. Yung tipong you don't need to know the catalyst or the fundamental story just yet. But if you follow price by virtue of the chart showing na, uy, uptrend siya, uy, pag may sell-off sa market, hindi siya gaano kadamay, then it's something that I would consider a potential leader. Because technical analysis or price is sometimes 6, 12, sometimes even 18 months ahead before lalabas yung kwento, yung catalyst, right? So, yun. Sometimes, pag lumabas na yung news or lumabas yung catalyst, tapos bumili ka, you get a position, huli ka na sa pansitan, right? And as traders, yes, we're here for the technology, we're here for the future, we believe in it, but we really follow price as the primary lever in our decision-making process. So I hope it helped. In terms of the specifics, you can do a deeper dive on that, but I would say that there's potential by virtue of just looking at the chart and seeing how that could contribute to the ecosystem.
Thank you, Ira, for your question. And dahil dyan, you win a PDAX t-shirt, so congratulations. Please screenshot this right now and message our Facebook page so you may receive instructions on how to claim your prize. Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
All right. And
I can answer this one. I can answer one last, or is that?
Okay, this is the last na. This is the last. By Nika.
Sure. Yeah, sure. I can answer that.
Yeah. How do you screen crypto to trade? Do you have a certain tool or screener, or are you just using TradingView?
Cool question. So it's reached a point where I've just seen so many pairs that I add them to my watch list and I kind of create a trading plan for what I see. Yung tipong when you hear a certain pick or you read something and you check it on TradingView, I add it already to my list. And then those that show a trading setup or those that are above your short-term EMAs, then I consider them something which can be actionable to trade. But to answer your question, I personally don't use any automated process. Like I mentioned, it just reaches a point where I just have a huge aggregate of issues I've been watching. Normally, or if you wanna make the process more mechanical, you can go to CoinGecko and then filter all of the coins by market cap and then knock yourself out. You can check out the top 200 coins by market cap and see what there has a trading setup, or you can check the um, historical change to see who the leaders have been the past month or year to date, for example. So yeah, that's a good way to be able to build your watch list, and from your watch list screen everything and then identify what fit your trading system and which of these you can execute and make money from. Easier said than done, challenging process, but yeah, that's the answer to your question.
Alright, thank you, Nika, for asking that question. Dahil dyan, nanalo ka ng isang PDAX t-shirt. So congratulations. Please screenshot this and message our Facebook page to learn how to receive your PDAX t-shirt. And with that, just for me, it's a PDAX question again. So I'll just ask you. Find the exchange button to primary and PDAX mobile. So hi Jupiter. For the PDAX mobile, kasi it sums your wallet, your balance. So no need to worry about transferring from exchange to primary. It does that automatically if you're on the PDAX mobile app. All right. And with that being said, thank you so much, Joseph. We learned a lot. I hope you guys did too for those watching right now. And we'll see you next week for the Crypto News Weekly. And for you, Joseph, see you next month for our monthly
Sure.
Crypto.
Thank you, Kyle. Stay safe, TGIF guys, and yeah, just reach out if you have any questions, concerns, how else I can help, and ingat. Good luck with the markets. Thank you, Kyle.
Thank you.